Rob Fairall from Lusso Estate in Mudgee. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for bringing along some of your fantastic wines. Geez, we've got a tough job. You're quite famous for making a lot of and pushing forward with a lot of Italian varieties in this country, and particularly in the Mudgee region. Yes. Mudgee's got a bit of a history with Italian varietals, and there's a heap of Italian varietals, isn't there? Can you tell me a little bit just about Mudgee and the
Sure.
history of the Italian varietal?
Well, I consider myself the third wave, Michael. The first wave was in the 1920s when a winemaker come surgeon by the name of Thomas Fiaschi was basically outed from Sydney, which is another big story, and brought with him Aleatico canes in a suitcase and planted an Aleatico vineyard just behind where my farm currently is. The second wave was in the 70s, led by a couple of families, Belgiorno Nettis, that's the Transfield owners, and a Mr. Saltieri. And they established Montrose, a name which still exists under the Oakley label, but they grew Nebbiolo, Sangiovese and Barbera. Nebbiolo no longer exists, but they brought out a winemaker called Carlo Corino, who's well known to other Australians on the wine side. And I'm the third wave. I've extended beyond Sangiovese and Barbera into the more alternative varieties, shall we call them, the Moscatos and the Aleaticos and the Picolets, as well as Nebbiolo. I grow Vermentino is a white. So really I've got 9 different varieties that I grow on my very small farm.
Wow, that's a lot. What is it about Italian varietals and Italian wines that you love? And maybe there was a defining moment where you fell in love with Italian wines?
There's big stories. There were. I mean, I used to be a banker, and for my sins out of London, I used to have to go lend money to very often highway projects, for example, and one in Sicily, Autostrada Messina Palermo. And they used to send me down to Palermo, and I used to have to catch a train around to Messina, and then have a look and see how far the highway had progressed. And of course it hadn't progressed because they just dug into a hill and come across an ancient Greek ruin, and they'd say, well, come back in a week. So I used to hire a car, get across the ferry to the mainland. This is in the 70s, mind you, and just travel around Italy, where I got to understand that actually wine is what they use to make the food taste better. My interest in wine was developed in a number of little, like a patchwork quilt. Mm-hmm. And then I came over to Sydney and became a little disenchanted with working in tall buildings, which is what I did in Sydney for a while, and then started dreaming about wine. Mm-hmm. And after a couple of false starts, I actually now living full-time in Mudgee. In Mudgee, our brand is called Lusso Estate. And Lusso is a second translation for indulgence, the first being luxury. Indulgence is what I've tried to create on Lusso. Mm-hmm. And our very logo consists of 3 entities. It has the grapes on the left, I think, the figs, yep, and the olives. Yep. And those are the 3 crops, if you like, that I grow. Yep. I also now grow saffron, and we have a restaurant on the premises, and I grow Italian vegetables. My approach to wine has been very much from the food side. I'm not a winemaker. I have an excellent winemaker, Julia Conchi, and my role in that organisation is more about my palate saying that this goes with this food, and then she has to reverse engineer it and actually make the wine. So she's got the hard job.
Yeah,
I've got the easy job. But we work well as a team. It's a very comfortable relationship, having me having a sort of like a vision of what it is that I want to create across a whole range of food styles. For example, Pinot Grigio, for me, is salt and pepper squid.
And that's what we've got in front of us?
Yes, it is. It is. And the Grigio, the Grigio style, as you know, as you make Pinot Gris, I define it as about 10 days. In other words, we probably pick the Grigio about 10 days earlier than you'd pick a Gris. So more acid, a little bit leaner, a less voluptuous style, a really tight style, yep, which tends to go well with lighter types of fish.
Fishes and that type of thing,
and that sort of thing.
And, yep.
And so when people say, well, describe to me your wines, I go, yep, Pinot Grigio, salt and pepper squid, Vermentino, salted cod,
yep.
the Vino Rosato, which is my rosé, that's Italian meats, Sangiovese, definitely lamb, Barbera is with its greater acid, is pork or duck, and Nebbiolo is porcini, funghi, and risotto, and so on. So that's my approach. And
I find that fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I mean, that's what we're passionate about:
Yep.
food and wine, and making those connections. And for you to explain wines as the foods they go with, just I think gives so much more insight to the wines. I know I go and talk about wines in what I do, and you know, to have that extra element to explaining a wine just paints more of a picture for people, I believe. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there's another reason I do it, because I failed chemistry at a very young age, and there's no ways I could become a winemaker, nor ever want to become a winemaker. So in that sense, not only Julie is safe, but the world is safe.
Yeah.
Because
you have no interest. You just enjoy the spoils.
Yeah, and I passionately believe that, you know, wine is there to make food taste better. I mean, the fact is that wine changes the flavors of food, and food changes the flavor of wine.
That's right.
And secondly, I don't know, 90% of premium wine is drunk with food. Yeah. So, to me, that's my pitch. That's the way that I look at it, and it's only one of countless different ways of looking at wine.
Yeah.
And the way I settled on Italian varietal wine, not only because of that food and wine connection, but because of the historical connection of Mudgee to Italian varietal wine.